we are. Good morning. Happy Tuesday, everybody. And welcome to another episode of Local Marana. A real quick shout out for everybody that tuned in yesterday on our special edition with the Marana Food Bank fundraiser. Okay. Thanks to everybody that donated. I think we came in roughly 1,000 in an hour, which is pretty cool, not to mention some volunteers. We've got a good friend of ours back with us this morning, Mr. Daniel Romero. Welcome back, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, welcome back. David's on assignment, as they say, somewhere else right now. And I thought for about 3 seconds, and I said, who are we going to bring in? And the next second, you're on the phone with me. We're chatting. So here you are.
Nice.
Remind people who you are, Daniel.
So my name is Daniel Barkley Romero, born and raised here in Tucson. I own Blueprint Home Services. We are a general contractor. Actually, we're licensed for general contracting, electrical, and plumbing. We do the majority of that being roofing and solar. And let's see, we started in 2017-ish. And we've just been rocking and rolling ever since. But in this last year, we've really started to take off and grow pretty fast and pretty big. And I'm really excited to see what the future has for us because we're doing some cool things.
You are.
Yeah.
You are. It's been fun to watch. When did you come into the plaza? In other words, when did you and I meet? Because
almost about 3 years, exactly 3 years ago, because we had a 3-year lease that we just renewed for another 3. So
we're working on that too.
Yeah,
we've been here 16, going on another 16.
Oh man,
it's been a good run. Hey, so the flair, our flavor, Local Marana. There's a lot of good stuff going on here.
A lot
of really good stuff going on here. Of course, with that comes some growing pains, and we all know that. That's part of the process.
Sure.
I have experienced, this is going to sound like Mayor Ed Honey now, I've experienced nothing but really like good stuff since we chose to do business here. Sure. I live in Oro Valley. I looked around, not to bash Oro Valley. I just couldn't, first off, I couldn't afford the rent. Mm-hmm. And then the restrictions that they wanted to put in place were just prohibitive. And when we chose Marana, is that your experience since you started doing business here?
It is, yeah. Marana seems to have a lot of things. They're a lot more business owner friendly, but that it's also the town of Marana, right? You got to get a lot of blue collar workers. They're starting companies. They're looking for things to do. I'm on a couple of these neighborhood feeds, right? And it's just like I'm on an Oro Valley group feed on Facebook, a Gladden Farms, all of these different neighborhoods, and the amount of people. So you kind of notice trends like what people's talking about, and Marana's always talking about business and how to improve and how to grow and Oro Valley and some of like the city of Tucson neighborhoods that I'm in, it's few and far and in between. Yeah. So I think it's just the focus. The focus is more business owner oriented in town of Marana, and that's helpful. So I didn't know that until I got in it, but luckily I was already in Marana. So yeah. But even like permits and stuff, right? Like we pull permits for solar installs, and town of Marana usually get pretty quick.
Yeah, how does that compare? I never thought about that. That's a really good place to start right there.
It's night and day. City of Tucson, I've waited as long as 6 months to get a permit approved back, right? Like if I sell a solar deal in City of Tucson, I'm going to set the expectation with the homeowner that this could take 6 to 9 months before we're able to get your system on, and that's just the way it's been. I think they've gotten a little bit better, but they used to be awful, and so now it's like I try to avoid selling City of Tucson deals just because I don't want to wait that long.
And isn't that a shame?
I lose interest.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
That costs you money. It probably costs the homeowners money because I know how competitive your pricing is.
Yeah, well, what it is when somebody wants something, right? Do they want to wait 6 to 9 months for it? Typically not. So, especially people who are looking to go solar, you've got a lot of people. You'll know solar and pools kind of go hand in hand with each other, right? Like people know like about this time, people are saying like, okay, my electric bill's about to get high. I want to start looking into this, and everybody gives us a call, and they have the desire to get it done before June, July,
Right,
August,
right.
right? Well, City of Tucson, that's just not going to happen. Town of Marana, typically not a problem. Oro Valley's definitely better than City of Tucson, but not as good as Marana. Marana's pretty quick. They turn it around pretty fast, so that's nice. When I go out prospecting or I'm looking, if I were to like go back into door knocking or whatever, I would target town of Marana because that's what's going to transact quicker and get paid quicker.
See, this is why some of the conversations you and I have in the parking lot are, hey, step into a leadership role because we need to continue this.
Well, yeah, we need to continue it.
Yeah. And I always qualify that by saying, if it's not you, Daniel, then who do you know?
Well, it's the town of Marana's growing, right? Like, I remember Ina being dirt. You know what I mean? Like, and I really don't think anybody ever thought that we would grow this far. So now we're kind of at the point, like I'm looking at out some land out there in Marana, right? Because it's just going to keep growing out that way, and that land and everything's just going to get more and more expensive with the more infrastructure that gets built out there. So I'm looking to try to get a hold of something out there pretty quick.
Wait till they get the exit fixed at the Marana Road exit before you do that.
Then it's just going to cost me more.
No, buy the property now.
Yeah, buy the property now, and then let its value just grow with every improvement they make.
Yeah,
because
Marana, the people that built Marana over the last 100 years, they're all out there. When we say out there, if you're from here, you know what we're talking about. They're all out there.
Well, now out there isn't even out there, right? Like I remember when I was in high school, because I went to Mountain View. When I was in high school, Continental Ranch that's what we considered Marana, right? Like people would be like, hey, I heard of a party out in Continental Ranch, and it was like, I want to go all the way to Marana. I didn't bring an extra set of clothes. Like I was just planning on, It was a big deal, and nobody wanted to go out that far. Now it's like that's I go through there every single day.
Yeah, when I moved to here from Phoenix in 2002, the population of Marana was 28,000, and now it's probably pushing 68,000. I mean, the number just keeps.
Sure.
Well, in 2018, I was doing some election stuff. The population was 43,000. So we've gone up 50% in population in a 5-year period of time. And when you look out in Marana, the area we're talking about, the growth is just staggering. I mean, the new homes and the new area, and there's still just thousands of acres left to be.
Oh, there's a lot
to develop in without affecting any of the agriculture, really, because I mean, we got a lot of property out here.
Yeah, there's a lot of land out there.
So you're a native. We talked about that in the past. I mean, my kids grew up here. I'm not a native. I got here as quick as I could, but that must have been pretty cool because you talk about going out to, I mean, it's your hometown, so people always take those things for granted.
Yeah.
Trust me. But that had to be pretty cool growing up here back when Ina, for example, was a dirt road and stuff. Because how's that? I guess what I'm asking you is, as a native, how's this feel to see where you're at now? You're almost becoming a metropolitan here in Marana.
Well, see, it is. It's funny because my wife and I always joke about this because my wife and I went to high school together. We met in high school. We dated in high school, right? So we've been a part of each other's lives for a while now, and we kind of talk about like we're Northwest kids, right? Like we didn't know anything existed south of Orange Grove until like a couple of years ago, right? That's not true. That's an exaggeration, obviously, but I for the most part, when you're a kid, you're growing up, especially before you can drive, or even after you start driving, because you don't just jump in the car and say, I'm going to cruise all, as far as I possibly can. We pretty much just stayed over here, and our when we make our address out, we write Tucson, Arizona. Our addresses were never specific to Marana, so I don't think we ever really thought about the division,
Right.
the dividing lines between all of the different towns, Oro Valley, Marana, city of Tucson. But now we're starting to pay a little bit more attention to it because
Well, and in that time frame, there were gaps
Right.
between each city. Now it's, as most large cities are, the infill.
Up until recently, Tucson's just been Tucson, and we were a suburb of Tucson, and when somebody says, "Hey, where are you from?" It's just Tucson, right? We used to always make fun of the people up in Phoenix or Scottsdale, right? Where, oh, you're up from Phoenix? Oh, no, I'm from Scottsdale, right? You're just kind of like, whatever, dude, you're from frickin' Phoenix.
Yeah.
Shut up. So, like...
Hey, it's the same thing with us good folks from Oro Valley. I live in Oro Valley. I drove down from Oro Valley. They'll tell us, and I'm like, I do that every day. Come on.
You feel special. It's now it's starting to become a little bit more noticeable because a lot of it has to do with business, right? Where you have to be licensed, where the taxes get paid. And so I don't think it's been until only in the, last decade that I've actually started noticing dividing lines between this is Oro Valley, this is Marana, this is Tucson, this is, all these different areas. It's just all been one up until getting into business, and now everything's split up.
Again, I got here, as I've said numerous times now, 22 years almost, and I'm home.
Right.
I still love going to Phoenix. I'll be there next week a couple of times. I wouldn't mind having something out around Queen Creek. Easy for me to say Gilbert, Chandler in that area.
Sure.
Because that growth up there is, I don't know if you've been up there recently. That growth is insane. Around Gilbert and out there, that was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and they just keep building more warehouses. The warehouses there, which substantiate or support the communities with groceries and products and stuff, they go all the way to Apache Junction now.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, and even just... It is getting more connected, right? Because there's a big stretch of dirt between us and Phoenix, right? So and like what I hear a lot about is people from like Santan, right? Santan Valley.
Right. That's where I'm kind of referring. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're either making the 45-minute trip north, or they're making the 45-minute trip south.
Right.
And working there, but. Yeah, it's actually kind of opened up like recruiting for employees a little bit more because they got to work somewhere, right? And they're either going to go north, they're either going to go south. So it's kind of given us a little bit bigger of a pool to fish from.
Right. So. And, a lot of that is affecting Marana in a positive way with the growth, with the housing, because I know people that live in basically Nogales or Rio Rico and places that work in Marana or work in Tucson.
Oh, yeah.
And then there are a lot of people that work
shuttles.
There's several people that come up here. And it's not that long of a drive. I don't know, 45 minutes. A lot of people that work in Casa Grande with the new developments that they've got there live here because it's a little more affordable than, say, the areas I mentioned earlier.
I mean, remember when Casa Grande was just a Dairy Queen? Right?
Yeah.
A Dairy Queen in a gas
that was
station.
a turnaround point. If you lived here and lived there, as a matter of fact, we've done many drop-offs of kids and grandkids at that Dairy Queen there.
Yeah.
You can't even find a Dairy Queen now.
It's still there.
Hidden.
Yeah.
I've been in the desert for as long as you've probably been alive. I've been here since 80. Well, you were probably born around this time frame, 88. And the growth that I've seen is just, I love it personally. I don't want to overwhelm. The point is, if you're not from here, and you might not get a clue of this, we've got lots of space still. We're never going to get, as long as we're not crazy, we're not going to get into, we're not going to kill a bunch of cacti and ruin our mountain ranges if we're careful with thoughtful leadership.
Yeah.
Now, you may take another approach because you grew up here, but...
Well, Tucson's one of those things that, like, I feel like everybody wants to be here. But then when they show up and they realize that, like, the infrastructure isn't built out the way they want it to be, that's what makes Phoenix look appealing to them, right? They're like, I'll take the 5 to 10 more degrees in the summertime. but I have a freeway system.
The
right?
logistics,
I don't have to go
no
stoplight to stoplight
No
for
comparisons.
an hour just to get, a couple of miles up the road. So that's the hard part. And then I think people like, because we get a lot of snowbirds, right? We get a lot of snowbirds. We get a lot of retirees.
Hey guys, the snow has melted. It's time to go home.
It is. Get out of here. But please come back next year.
Yes, and bring your money.
Yeah. So yeah. But what I'm noticing a lot more people doing is coming here and staying, right? So, and they stay for a while, but I think a lot of them, especially because they're from other cities that have like a freeway system that's built out and all of that kind of stuff. That gets old to them really quick, where they're like, man, I didn't realize I don't like sitting in traffic this much. But then again, if you're from, if you're coming down from like California, LA, like our traffic here will just, even if we didn't have a freeway, it would never hold a candle to what they got to deal with over there. So I guess it all just depends on where they're coming in from.
It's again, I love Marana. I do. I love the whole area, but the joke is, and it's actually the truth, I live in Marana. I sleep in Oro Valley. I've kind of got the best of both worlds.
Sure.
Because I can do business more freely and open here, and then I get to where I'm at. It's pretty special place. It's quiet. It's dark.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of movement in my neighborhood as far as traffic and stuff like that. It's really cool. So I get the best of both worlds. But again, local Marana. This is where. We've established our businesses. This is where we've established our relationships for the most part that we've built. I've been in Marana. There are a lot of businesses in Marana, and I want to shout out a few. First, back to Dove Mountain Epoxy. Thank you yesterday, Steve and Abby. I don't know if I did it at the outset. I intended to, for sponsoring the podcast yesterday with the Marana Food Bank and your contributions and your volunteering of your time. But we've got like Dominic's. And got a lot of new restaurants coming in, but Dominic's in specific has been a big supporter of the local Marana program. We got Skinology, we've got a Blacktop Grill, of course, Copper Creek Cookies, Blueprint. Just on a side note, somebody else has a logo pretty close to yours that has a pool company, right? Probably. Did you notice that? Because I'm driving down the road the other day, and I'm like, Tammy, there goes one of Daniel's trucks. She goes, no, that's the pool company. Looks pretty close.
Our trucks don't get noticed as much. I'm kind of in a funny spot right now with Blueprint, because I've always thought that like a service is a service, right? I don't get hung up on the trucks or the cool gadgetry. I like to go in and build a relationship.
Right.
And now that the team has grown, I'm starting to notice, and I'm not the only one in talking to customers or homeowners. What I've found is that we're probably going to be making some big pushes to get some actual nice trucks, get some decals and everything on them, so that people do see us kind of going up and down the road. Up until now, it's just been like I'm super busy. I haven't needed the extra exposure, but even more so just for a look of professionalism, right? Because now I've got my other sales people. They're saying like, hey, it'd be really nice if I showed up in like a clean looking truck with something that said Blueprint on the side. I'm like, well, why? The truck's outside. You're going to be inside talking, right? Like, are you going to give them a ride around the block? Like, what is the importance of this pretty truck, right? But I guess that's a thing for people. So I'm going to be looking at probably bringing on a couple of new trucks and getting them fixed up. So soon, you should see some.
There may be some differential. Hey, real quick.
Yeah, right now they're just white trucks going down the road.
Yeah, with a blueprint on the side and a phone number.
Some of them, if the magnets haven't fallen off.
Note to any budding entrepreneur. Did you notice how Daniel has approached this? Rather than go out and buy a big fleet.
Yeah.
He got the business first. He built a reputation. He built relationships. That's a key word around here. We use it all the time. Matter of fact, to me, that's the most important ingredient in life. Period. Yeah. Relationship with your maker and relationship with the people you do life with. If you've got those in check, life's probably going to be pretty good for you. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so that then talking about Marana, right? So how does this relate to town of Marana? The thing that I've always said is like we call it Tucson, right? But in Tucson, there's always somebody dating somebody else's sister, right? So it's like everybody knows everybody.
Isn't that crazy?
Uptown
this
the
big.
It's the biggest small city in the world, right? Or smallest big city in the world, whichever order you want to go. But I mean, yeah, like anyone you meet, just even out and about, right? You get their name, you plug them into Facebook, and you look, and it's like 20 mutual friends, 40 mutual friends. It's just everybody. If you just talk long enough with somebody, you'll find a connection somewhere, right? That's just how Tucson is. That's how it's always been. That's how it's going to continue to be. So you're either going to get one of two reputations, good or bad, right? You're either going to do right by somebody, and then everybody that person knows who also knows you is going to, hear that feedback.
Guy, good product.
Yeah, or you're going to screw somebody over.
Lousy product.
Yeah, and you're so. When in high school, my first job was working at a auto shop right up the road here on Ina and Thornydale, and I was running the front office. I was, upselling air filters and all this other kind of whatever it was.
I can see.
Yeah, I mean, and the owner of the company at that time, he was just saying like, hey, look, we've got to. Somebody would come in with like a warranty thing or whatever, and we always just took care of it. It's like, just take care of it, whether we're in the right or we're in the wrong. Just take care of it, right? And it was like. I remember one time somebody bringing their car in. We had just worked on it. Something else failed. It was something small and silly, but completely unrelated to the repair that they had done. But of course, since we had touched it, a couple of days ago, they were convinced it was us. And, it took less than 10 minutes to fix and just kind of sent them on their way and, have a good day type of thing. And it was like, well, why did we do that? And, it's like the customer isn't always right. Like I'm not a believer of that.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, we talk about that.
Yeah.
We could have spent the whole time on that, but and he explained to me, he was just, hey, look, like we're not a big Jack Furrier's, Brake Max, Brake Masters. We're a smaller shop, and we need that customer to continue to come back all the time, right? And we also need that customer to tell 5 of their friends how great we are that we just took care of it. And so that's something that I feel like I've kind of adopted where, if it doesn't take a lot to just make somebody happy and add a little bit more on top, like make them feel special, right? Because people talk
they are.
Here. Yeah, people talk here.
They're your board of directors. Your clients, your customers are the people that keep you in business. And hey, I grew up in a little small town in the Midwest. And so everybody knew everybody, of course. I lived in Phoenix. I lived in Chicago. Never felt that in either one of those places. I loved both of those places for different reasons. But when I moved here, a good friend of mine said to me at the time that lived here and grew up here, he said, like, Clint, everybody knows everybody here. And I remember thinking it back in my head, well, what's he really? Rick Peralt, you know what I'm talking about. He said that, and I'm like, well, what does he mean? There's a million people here. And I'm like, I'm going to do that anyway because I come from a small town.
Sure.
You wave at everybody when you drive down the street, which kind of gets you some looks in Phoenix when you're waving at people driving down the street, but that's okay. And it didn't take long to realize that everybody does know everybody in Oro Valley, Marana, Tucson, which is part of the charm. I think that's part of what makes us a special community is we do know each other and we do care about each other. And a lot of the people in Marana that have been here forever that come from large families, they're one big family. Right. I mean, there are literally hundreds of people in some of these families. When you check the family tree, you were getting ready to say something else, and then I want to come back to no.
No,
I heard it. Hey, I want to again back to you, budding entrepreneurs, business owners, the people that are just getting started. What Daniel said a minute ago, I echo 100%. He said something to the effect of the customer is not. The old saying is the customer is always right. Now, guys, come on, we know that's garbage almost just by saying that.
Right. Well, customers like to feel that way, right? But let's and for some reason I always I tend to gravitate towards the trades that the majority of people don't understand, right? Like auto mechanics, right? I did that for 10 years. Most people don't know the first thing about how their car works. They just know that they use it to get to where they're going, right?
I'm that guy.
Yeah. So you can feel like maybe something happened but the God's honest truth is you just don't know, right? Because you don't know how the engine works. You don't know how all of so to come in and demand that you're right because you're the customer, but you don't know the first thing about how a car engine works, and when your car has issues to be able to say that, this should have never happened. You just don't know. Right. So you can't be right about something you don't know. You can maybe have a lucky guess, but those are going to be few and far and in between. So, but what I think really matters more so than anything is your response to it. Okay. Exactly. So construction, I found this out. Luckily, or not luckily, but by design, and fortunately, we don't have a lot of warranty work. Every once in a while, we've got something we've got to go back and fix and take care of, and that's whatever. But what I found where people really end up hating you is when they have a problem after you've done work on their property, they reach out to you and all of a sudden they can't reach you, right? If you avoid people, if you don't respond back to them, if you don't at least go out and take a look, explain to them what happened. But most of the time, as long as you're responsive, you get out there, you check what's going on, and you can communicate to them, what's happening. They'll typically, and even if it is your mess up, you just take care of it.
You fix it, right?
Probably 7 years ago, I had this lady. We just installed solar on her house, and the next rain, she had a leak, right? This was back in the Solar City days. But she had a leak, and she had just had brand new carpet put down in this room. No. And of course, that's where the leak was. Yeah. And the water came through, and it stained her brand new carpet, and it was a whole thing, right? Well, we got out there. We got out there fast. We got the leak fixed. We got her carpet cleaned for her. We resolved the issue within 48 hours, no problem, right? And she ended up being she probably is still the record holder for most referrals sent to me.
See?
Just because it's like people just want to know that if there's a problem, you'll be there. Right. They want to know that if there's a problem, you're not going to just skip town on them and leave them holding the bag, clueless of what to do. So as long as you just take care of people and you do the right thing, it's almost what's cool about Tucson is it's very hard. I'll dedicate this more to like service industries. It's really hard to have an unsuccessful service industry here in Tucson because we've got so many people that need the services.
Right. And
as long as you do good, like we've been in business now for 7-8 years. We haven't done any marketing. We don't have any wraps on our trucks, right? It's just the first year.
Yeah.
I went out and
knocked on doors
knocked on doors and sold some jobs and did some jobs and the growth ever since then is every year we're just adding more customers to that pool of referring customers to refer us more, and every year we get bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. Now it might have been the slower way to go about it. I didn't bring on investors to get the whole fleet of trucks and the marketing and all of this kind of stuff. But I still own 100% of the company, so that's cool.
Hey, you know what? That's what we've done.
Yeah,
we've done it with the various business we have. Now I have partners, in some of this stuff, but no investors and no debt. So that gives you a lot of flexibility when you want to move. One more thing, and then I'm going to have Scott chime in here because we've got another local guy right here pushing all the buttons. So that's just your warning there, Scott, that we're going to bring you in here in a second. He's pushing buttons and making all this stuff happen back there. And but back to the customer's always right. What I discovered early on was everything you just said was they're not always right. First off, I don't even know who coined that statement, but they were way off. But here's what is the reality. The customer may not always be right, but they do have the money and they have the need, and it's our responsibility to find out what that need is,
Sure.
and if it's can we accommodate them? Because there's been many times that people would ask, especially in our catering business, can you do this? Can you do that? No, we don't do candy apples.
Right.
We do cookies, we do cinnamon rolls, we do some of that other stuff, but we don't do cookies. I think we're warming up for a little break here. What do we
That's
got
what it
coming?
sounds like. We got a commercial.
Discover the power of 88 Crime, where your anonymous tips are rewarded with cash. When you call in anonymously with a tip, you are given a code. With the code and a password, you can walk into a bank and redeem your reward anonymously. If your anonymous tip results in a felony arrest, you can claim up to $2,500 cash reward. Let's stop the silence on crime and strive for a safer community. For more information, please visit 88crime.org or call 88crime.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
We can print anything on our soft vanilla logo cookies. We deliver them and other sweet treats locally. We are located at 4249 West Ina Road, Suite 21. Call us 520-300-1131. We bake smiles.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
Are you looking to establish a powerful online presence for your brand? Look no further than Live the Dream Media. Our team of experts possess the capabilities and skills necessary to make it happen. From creating compelling content to analyzing data and making strategic decisions, we've got it covered. Don't let a lack of social media know-how hold you back. Visit ltdmedia.net for more information.
There he is.
Welcome back, everybody.
There he is.
You know, I am pushing a lot of buttons back here, and I had to hit a toggle switch, and that's why you didn't hear Jessica's voice for the very first part of the 88 Crime commercial. So we'll make sure that we give both her an apology and 88 Crime all their money back. And maybe we'll report a crime or two just to be able to set them up for success. Welcome back to the show. I would like to, to kind of recap, we've been talking about growing business the right way locally. And that's really refreshing to hear. One of the things that I've always had a philosophy in that I share with you guys is, I'll use golf as an example. I didn't want to be the guy that had all the nice clubs, nice gear, heavily invested in it, that also sucked at golf. I wanted to build it the right way. So just give me a few sticks and let me whack the ball until I can figure out how to do it well and do it consistently, just like you guys are talking about with building the business slow and scalable and getting the relationships in place the right way, and then do some investing if that means now you get the blueprint wraps with the trucks on it. And so I think that's pretty cool. I appreciate your perspective on that.
Yeah, and to the customers always, right? Like what ends up happening, I feel like, is just like your own person, your business ends up establishing its own moral philosophies, right? And not every customer is the right fit for you, right? Now, they're the ones with the money,
Right.
but luckily for me, Tucson is full of terrible roofs, and it is very low on the amount of roofers that are out there doing them. Like there's plenty.
Well, we got 300,000 rooftops.
Yeah. So a couple of customers a year that typically I end up choosing not to work with, just because I can just feel like that them and I are not going to clash, right? Right. Then it's like, cool, just let them be somebody else's headache. Or maybe there's another roofer out there whose personality is more in line with that person, and maybe these things will, we had a job just last week. We ended up doing it. Everything's good, but we had the customer. The customer was cool the whole time right up until we got him on the schedule, and then we started going over the plan. Hey, look, we're going to load the roof from over here. This is what we're going to install and where, and all of these kinds of things. And all of a sudden he started, coming in with, well, I don't want you to load it over there. I want you to do it over here. I want you to do, and it was just kind of like, well, you want to do your own roof? Because I'm telling you the safest, most efficient way for us to do this, which is what has been priced out to you.
And been working for a long time.
Yeah. Now, if you want me to airdrop your material using a helicopter, it's exaggerating, but if you want all of this and that, then that's just not what we're going to do. So we kind of need to be on the same page with each other. And yeah, you've got some customers, they try to run the whole project right from the gate to where it's like, well, if you know all this so well, why don't you do your own roof, right? And the answer is they just have the information that they think they know from reading online. Some of it may even be correct, but you got to kind of decide who you want to work with and who you don't, because that'll preserve your sanity. And
knowledge by itself is kind of worthless. I always use, if it's not applied, it's you just know it. That's great. One of my favorite stories, and I'm going to be real brief here, and this is echoing what Scott said about something and what we're talking about today, slow and scalable. One of my favorite business stories is 3M. I have a personal attachment with that because my stepfather and all that, working with him and stuff. So, but 3M, first off, do you know what 3M stands for?
No.
I won't give it away right now, but if anybody knows what 3M, of course, if you're sitting at home, you could Google this. I'll give it to you now. 3M stands for Minnesota Manufacturing and Mining Company.
Okay.
And they started out basically making sandpaper.
Sure.
They had a quarry there where they dug out the grain that they made sandpaper with. 3M, as we know it today, is classified as a conglomerate. There's no really way to pigeonhole what they do, because they're unique.
Yeah.
I think there are only, on the stock market, there are only 14 or 15 conglomerates. You don't even know how to classify them.
Sure.
And all their stuff is new. They innovate constantly. 2/3 of their sales are new over the last 5 years. It took them 20 years to actually become a bona fide company.
Right.
And so my point being is, when you're starting out in business, this is a little primer for business owners or entrepreneurs. When you start out, at least it was for me, and I'm betting it was for you. When you start out, you really don't know what you're doing. You kind of have a clue that you're going to be able to do roofing, or you can make a cookie, or you can do some media stuff. But you really don't know until you start getting your reps. So in the beginning, I think we all fall guilty or partake in this, or whatever the word you want to use, but we'll kind of take anything. They're showing an interest in me. They need a roof, or they need whatever the case may be. So we'll do things that maybe we shouldn't because of ignorance on our own part. Is that fair enough to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then after you do it a handful of times, and maybe that thing that you shouldn't have done in the first place, or maybe something you learned from it, you'll realize you're starting to get the feedback from that potential client that, yeah, I think I've already been here before, and it worked like this. I can navigate through this, or maybe I should just set this one out. And I've said this numerous times, especially to my wife. Let someone else have, like you said, let someone else have this headache. Let someone else lose money at this if that's what they choose to do, because they're probably going to.
Yeah.
And let someone else take that hassle. I don't need it. I've got 3 other people, like you say.
Sure.
1 or 2 or 3 of some of our people have been with us for the whole 19 years.
Right.
And have referred people countless times. And like you, we've done a little bit of advertising over the 19 years, but not much. Our product is our advertising. Everything we do has a label on it. Oh my gosh, where'd you get this? People call us, they say, we saved your label off your cookie because we knew we had a birthday party coming up in 6 months. We were going to use you.
Sure.
That's pretty cool. So we let our product and our service, same with the media company. Never made a phone call. We do some digital marketing because that's what we do. But we've never made a phone call. We've made very few sales calls. People come to us. They're like, hey, what are you doing over there? I'm a Gary Vee guy when it comes to that.
Sure.
Just keep doing the job.
Right.
Just keep doing the job and doing it to the best of your ability every time. Do what you can to make money because it is a business. These are not for profits. But you can't. It's like people, and you probably had people do this or ask you this as well. Well, Clint, what was your ROI on that?
Right.
Well, I just did it the first time. So honestly, that's not even a question that you should even be asking me, because if I've done it the first time or 3 times, I probably haven't made money at that point.
I mean, the first 5 years you're staying afloat, right?
Well, the IRS gives you 5 years to make a profit or declare it a hobby. So if they already understand that.
Yeah, it's one of those things that even now, right? Like, I feel like regardless of how long you've been in business, you should be learning new things every day, right? Or new lessons. Unfortunately, in construction, every lesson I learn is expensive, right? So, you know, I always joke like I never have a mistake or an accident that's cheaper than $3,000, right? That's just
right.
Even when my guys call me and they'll tell me something like, "Hey man, we spilled a gallon of paint," right? And it's like $50 to go get another one. It's like I didn't even want you to call me about that. Like just go get the gallon of paint, right? Because bigger things are going to happen and it just is what it is. But if you don't learn, right? So like last year, for example, one of the neighborhoods out in Marana just got blasted. One of those mini tornadoes. Remember when it ruined the high school?
Yeah, was that the one you're talking about? Oh yeah.
And,
ask David about that. He was out there locked in a gym.
So there's a neighborhood out there, Tierra Linda, that just got. They're right across from the high school, and not even exaggerating, every single house in that neighborhood got hit, right? Every single roof had tiles blown up and off of it. Every single house had interior water damage that came through. So every single house was an insurance claim, right? Mm-hmm. So insurance claims, they get pretty muddy because the insurance company is always trying to pay the least possible amount or none at all. You've got the customer who they just want their house fixed. They don't want to mess with any of this. The insurance company doesn't want to pay anything, and so we go out there and so in one day we had 20 insurance claims basically opened up where we're working with the insurance, but they're not moving fast and everything's busy because they've got more than one claim that they're dealing with too, and we've got the customer over here that just wants their house put back together. They don't necessarily want to wait for 6 months to 9 months for us to go back and forth with the insurance company. They want their stuff ready for Christmas. They want their stuff ready for Thanksgiving, all of these types of things, right? So what did we do? We leaned forward on all of the work before we had insurance approvals, which I've been working with insurance companies on claims. I kind of knew that was a no-no, but I just wanted to do the right thing for the customer, get their houses put back together. I'll settle up with the insurance companies on the back end, right? I'm still in the process of chasing probably 6 or 7 of these insurance companies that are fighting, and then the downside to that is like, I leaned forward on these jobs to help the customer because they didn't want to wait. In this case,
customers in your community, these are your neighbors.
Right.
Technically.
And so I guess one thing that I'm kind of bummed out, but what I learned is that, now I've done all the work for the customer, as grateful as they were that I pushed their job forward and I floated all of the money to get their house put back together. They're not really advocating for me to their insurance company, right? They're just kind of like, well,
they got theirs, dude.
Yeah, they're done. They're set. So
thank you, Daniel.
Yeah.
Here's a birthday card.
I won't even get that, but yeah, if I ever get paid on these jobs, it'll be great. If I don't, it'll be what it is. But I learned from it, right? I'm not going to go after the customer. I'm not going to do anything like that. The money's not big enough for it to mean that. I lose a couple grand, but just keep moving.
And lesson learned.
Yeah, and lesson learned. So now, because we go through this every year with monsoon season, right? Every monsoon season, somebody gets hit hard.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and so a lot of what we've done in the last year is building up our infrastructure so that we don't have to lean forward on these projects because we're not going to anymore, right? I got burned too bad. Which is unfortunate because there are some customers that I've leaned forward on their jobs before and they still take care of me and all of that. But now because of, quite a few people who don't care whether or not I get paid on the work I did to their house or not, it's like, oh, well, I'm never doing that again.
So the next time you want to bang on a business owner for just taking your money and getting rich and walking away, and those business guys make all their sometimes we manage our business with our hearts, which is not always. Yeah. Actually, if you manage your business with your heart, you're probably not going to make it. I hate to say that. You got to look at reality from time to time. But on the same token, can you turn away a neighbor in need? Because being in the food business, you think I haven't.
Yeah.
There's a lot of free food.
Sure.
Clint, I haven't got any money this week. I mean, okay. Here we go.
And that's great. The biggest thing is it's you got to know what you're okay with in business, right? And
hey, when you did that, you knew that this was a possibility.
I knew that this was
Fair
a
enough?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so
you still made what I would say the right decision as a human being, maybe a bad decision as a business operator.
You know what? I'm still happy with the decision I made because it was either that or I'd be here's the other hard part, and this is where insurance claims get really really wish-washy, is they'll blame the contractor for the negligence of the insurance company, right? We're waiting on the insurance funds to come through, but the customer usually doesn't connect the dots with the bottleneck is with the insurance company. So what their complaint turns into is, oh yeah, I hired this contractor and he just won't get started, right? He's been, I gave him a deposit, and he hasn't gotten anything done, or we told him we were good to go with the work and it's been 6 months and it's like, well, that's because we're waiting on your insurance, right? Like that's not my fault.
Right.
If you want to pay for this out of pocket and not go through insurance, I can get you on the schedule in 2 weeks.
Yeah, what have you done in a
told
month?
me you didn't have the money.
Yeah.
Right. So, we can only do what we can do. But oftentimes, contractors will end up getting a sub 5-star review from a customer because when really they need to change their insurance company and get a better one.
Yeah. We could do a whole series on insurance companies. I won't even go there.
Yeah.
You mentioned something a while ago about learning and innovating. Jack Welch, the former CEO of General Electric. Mm-hmm. I can hear him say it right now. He's gone, of course, but he's like, if you're not innovating and you're not learning, you're already dead as an organization, as a company. It's constant. It's upgoing. I mentioned earlier 3M. Mm-hmm. 2/3 of their sales, a company that's been in business since 1903, 2/3 of their sales are on products that are new and improved.
Sure.
They just keep getting better at what they do. They're not resting on their laurels of something they created in 1950. If they've got it still in the product line, it's the new 2024 version or 2026 version.
Sure.
I'm going to give you one more little thing, and I've said this numerous times, and I think this is one of the most unique situations an organization's ever done, is I don't want to use the word insist, but they encourage all of their employees, from the janitors to the department heads,
sure.
Vice presidents, to spend 10% of their on-clock working hours trying to get better at what they do. And I would argue with very little pushback, it works.
Sure.
Because if all these sales are coming through and you keep moving forward, that innovation is what's causing that. So to me, that's money well spent. That's almost like, can we double up and do 20% of our time innovating?
Yeah, there's I had the opportunity to go take part in it was called Defender University, which Defender was like the largest distributor for ADT security, mm-hmm. And they've got a phenomenal training program and a whole thing. And I was part of another sales organization. I was the sales trainer for them, and I went over to this training to kind of see what all their magic was and try to build a program that could emulate it to a certain degree. And one thing that I caught from there that's always stuck with me is it said businesses don't grow, people do.
Right.
Right. So as long as your people are growing within your business, your business in line with it will continue to grow as well. So it's all about how are your people improving.
Think about what you just said. I mean, that it's an obvious, right? Because the equipment don't run itself. No one's putting the solar panels up by themselves. It's manpower. It's personnel that do that.
Right.
And you guys are certainly better today than you were last year, than you were the year before, than you were the year before. I mean, we just get better at things. We talk about it all the time around here. Get your reps in, and once you've done this 10,000 times, you'll probably be pretty good at it.
Yeah, you know the only scary thing about this, and this has been something that I've only been walking around with for a couple of days now. I was talking to a buddy of mine just right outside here the other day, and he pointed out to me, like, because what we're talking about is efficiencies, right? How can we make things the most possible efficient? Now, why are we doing that? Right? Is the end goal more money, more freedom, more? You know, what is it?
I think it's all.
It's probably
I think it's all
of
of those things.
So, but here, I guess here's what's scary, and this is something that I think I probably haven't digested this thought all the way yet. So this will probably be very rough draft version of it. But it's like 20 years ago, or let's see, it'd be more than that. Let's say 30 years ago, using computers in business or even the internet, let alone, would be fairly rare, right?
I
mean, most people were still writing hand estimates. They had their estimate book. They did that. They were balancing their
30
checkbook
years ago,
manually.
absolutely.
They were, you know, everything was mostly paper.
Especially
30 years
the
ago,
smaller businesses, larger businesses that kind of moved into that. But
the
most
bigger guys, sure, but
but they were still doing like the punch card stuff.
Right. So what my buddy Adam pointed out was, he was like, well, you know what's because we were talking about AI and how it was going to just make things so much more efficient, to where, you know, instead of having to spend 30 hours on this one task a week or whatever, you know, it would minimize it down to like 2 hours, and then gosh, I'd have 28 hours of free time, right? But a question he posed to me, he was like, you know, what's weird about that is everyone thought the computers and internets were gonna make things so much more efficient, to where then they wouldn't even have to do the work anymore, right? He's like, but we're still working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, right? So we as humans tend to just, when something becomes more efficient, we just put more on our plate.
Okay, 1980s, maybe 82, 83, 84, I worked at this little company called Radio Shack, the Tandy Corporation, that had been in business for 100 years. Where are they at now? They're gone. Yeah. I think
there used to be one right across the street.
Right over here. And I think Tandy now is doing... they're doing something totally, they're still a little corporation, and they're doing something totally like gaming or something. But I sold at a big Radio Shack store in the 80s, and I remember the company, I don't know if it was a company thing, but we all promoted this. We're selling that big tower TRS-80. We're selling these bad boys all day long. People have no idea what they're doing. And I remember saying and believing, hey, this is going to eliminate the use of paper.
Right.
Right? All we did when we created computers with the ability to produce volumes more paper than what we ever did before. Now we can just crank it out all day long. We don't have to proof any of it once we've got it in place. So actually the opposite of what I believed was going to happen, or we were convinced at that time, was because everything was going to be done with computers, right? Now we can just do reams and reams and reams of paper.
Right.
Isn't that crazy? And that's a 40-year time frame. But as you were saying that, I'm like, yeah, that didn't work out the way we planned.
Right.
And I believe the same, because you and I had a real in-depth, if you haven't seen it, go back and check it out. It's a Now You Know episode. Daniel really did a deep dive on AI. And I've listened to it a couple times. And Daniel, I think there's quite a few things you mentioned in there that I think are going to be that happen.
A lot of those are on the way.
I hope a lot of them don't happen. Some of them are like scary. Some of them are awesome. But at the end of the day, I think it's human nature to because I hear people talking all the time. It's going to eliminate. We won't have to work anymore at all. It's going to. I hear people of reputation talking this, and I'm like, no, come on. Are you? First off, we can robot everything. We can robot everything. We can. But that doesn't eliminate. Somebody still has to work on them. Somebody still has to. We're not eliminating work, people. It's kind of like we had the food bank in here yesterday. We were talking about the food and taking care of people. And I see people well-intentioned, I'm sure. Let's stomp out hunger. Let's stomp out these things. That's not as much as we'd love to say it. And theoretically, it's possible. But realistically, it's not possible. It's not going to happen.
Not in the next 100 years, but I think probably within the next 200 to 500 years. So we'll be long gone.
Yeah.
I think that is. I've been doing a lot of thinking about this lately, and it's just like as a human species, right? Like we're really all just in one big of game of just survive, right? We're born one day, we're on this planet we know nothing about, with people we don't know, and it's just that the game that we're playing is just don't die, right? I really do think it is as simple as that, right? We're just all here surviving, right? Now, over time, we've all come up with these things that we found to occupy our time, because that was another thing that my buddy asked me the other day. He was like, so if we're not working, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Right? What are we going to fill our day with? And it's like, we'll find stuff to fill our day with. I'm convinced of that, right?
Yeah.
So what we've got to try to do is we're a human species. We're the only species that really does what we do, right? Wake up, work for the first 60 years of your life, and then try to enjoy the rest, right? Every other species doesn't have that, and I'm wondering, because we're not the oldest species on the earth, right? So I'm almost wondering if these other species have just figured something out that we don't freaking know yet, man.
We don't know, do we?
Yeah, it's like what has the evolution of whales really looked like, right? Have there been other species that have gone through similar periods of their time? It was just 1 million years before human beings existed, right? We didn't see any of that, and they just said, that's harder than it has to be. We don't need to make life this hard. We just need to enjoy it. So I think as the human species, we've got to remember that the two core functions that we're trying to serve is stay alive and be happy, right? Like, because if you're alive and not happy, then that's kind of a waste. But if you're but if you're alive and like that's what everybody's goal should be, right? And everything that we do, from the place that we work to the amount of money that we want to make to the things we buy to where we live, isn't that all predicated on what's going to give me the highest level of comfort and happiness for my budget? Like that's what we're really striving for, is happiness and comfort, right? Don't die, be happy, stay comfortable. And so I really look at it from that primitive lens, where it's like, that's what my goal is, right? I want to see if I can live for the longest period of time possible in the happiest way possible.
Are you happy?
I'm so happy, Clint.
Yeah,
I'm probably one of the happiest guys I know.
I'll tell you what, I am. I'm real happy. I'm real happy. Ed Honey and I, we arm wrestle about this quite a bit. I say I'm the most blessed person on the planet, and he says he is.
No,
I'm like, well, okay, I'll play second to you, Ed. That's okay. But I really am. I think, but I would push back a little on something you said there.
Okay.
For me, it has, and it may be easy for me to say, but it's very little about material stuff or how much I have or what I can do. It's who I'm doing it with.
Right.
That's like really important to me, and especially as I get older and I look at my network of friends and family and people that I'm close to, I feel blessed. That's the reason why I'm happy, is because I'm doing life with, not because of my stuff.
Sure.
It's cool to have this stuff. Don't misunderstand me. It's cool to be able to have a comfortable vehicle to ride in, and you can get to and from where you want to safely, and a nice place to lay your head down or a nice place to hang out. But for me, it's all about, back to a word we use often, relationships. It's the people I'm doing life with. Back to Main Street for a minute before we get out of here. We went down that rabbit hole, but that always happens with Daniel and I when we're chatting.
Yeah.
We got multiple rabbit holes around here that we can jump in, like the insurance
Always.
one. We don't want to do that one. Not that we can do a full show on that. My buddy Chris DeSimone says we are the United States of insurance, and he's not wrong. Once he said that, and I went, he's not wrong. If the wealthiest man or one of the wealthiest men on the planet owns insurance, that should tell you something. Warren Buffett.
Oh, everything is
It's predicated
insured,
on insurance. Everything is insured. It's crazy. And it's one of those things as people, I don't even think we think about it. It's just car insurance, house insurance, health insurance, insurance for insurance. Double down on your insurance. What kind of insurance? Back to Main Street, though. Again, Marana, local Marana is what we're talking about here. It's one of the most unique places on the planet. And I've traveled all over. I've been everywhere. And it's just got like a little bit of all the right ingredients. Great geographical location. Let's just get that straight. We're planted in a perfect location right here in the Sonoran Desert. We've got beauty all around us. We've got a major thoroughfare, I-10, that runs right through the heart of it. You can be any of these places that we talked about earlier. We can be in Phoenix in an hour and 20 minutes, pretty much anywhere in town.
Sure.
Maybe if you're going north side, take it a little longer than that. So we got that going for us. The weather, although it's getting ready to get hot, you can see it in the forecast. Really, 8 months out of the year, the weather is pretty impeccable.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you just can't. Chilly in the mornings. I'm one of those guys. I want it about 70, and there's a few 30s mixed in there. But to me, it goes back to, I'll use the word again, relationships. The people here, the people that grew this town, the Honeys, the Posts, the Kais, the Wongs, the people like that grew this town from 100 years ago, really had a pretty good idea in place. And you know what it was? It was a word you used a while ago. It was about survival.
Yeah.
They had to survive. That water wasn't that situation. We've always had quite a bit of water because of good management. But so as we wrap this one up, kudos to all the people over the last 100 years, 75 years, that have left us in a position that we are now. Now, my concern, your concern, is definitely your concern as a younger person. What's next for Marana? So what do you see as next for Marana?
That's
what's
crazy
next?
is to think, 50 to 75 years from now, there's going to be, two guys talking about what we're doing now, and they'll be like, man, they were really just figuring it out, right? Like
That's true.
We're just in this stage of
this is a new Marana.
Yeah.
The Marana that they had, because I remember when all that stuff out there at Cotero, the only thing that was there was the McDonald's. I mean, literally, people say, well, the Burger King was there. Well, that came a little later. At one point, that was the only thing there. You go out to the Marana exit, there was that Circle K has always been there as far as I've known, but that little store next to it, that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm out there 2-3 times a week now, and there's way more than that.
So what does the future of Marana look like?
Yeah, what does it look like? 250,000 people. Because we're kind of maxed out unless we go up. We're kind of maxed out how wide we can go because of the terrain and because of state and federal properties and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
you know what? We have a few saving graces because I would be so sad if I saw Tucson turn into a one of these big city. I hate big cities. Keep me out of New York. Keep me out of LA.
Oh, yeah.
It's dirty. I don't like it. Too many people. I like dealing with people during the day for business, but then going home and having it be dark and quiet.
Yeah.
I don't like people around me when I'm at home. I really hope we keep that. I think we have a little bit of luck because we've got the observatory, which puts a lot of restrictions on what we can build, how high and how bright things can be.
But in 100 years, of course, we won't be here, but in 100
Sure.
years, will that be as important to the people that live here? They'll have to figure that out on their own.
Yeah.
That's a great point you bring up. Because of that, there are a lot of restrictions.
That restricts a lot of it. It was funny. I remember when I was working at Solar City because it was we were door knockers for Solar City, and the manager from Phoenix would come down and I think it was like in the wintertime, right, where our days are shorter and our numbers as an entire office kind of fell. And unlike Phoenix, where those guys have street lights, right? So they could be out there knocking doors at 7 o'clock at night, even when it was pitch dark, because there were street lights. In our neighborhoods at 7 o'clock in the wintertime, you can't see. I mean, I was running into mailboxes.
Yeah.
I was hurting myself. You know what I mean? And he was blown. He was like, man, you guys don't have any lighting out here. Like when you guys are out there trying to knock doors at 7 o'clock at night, it is pitch black. And then we looked, and then it was like, well, this is why, right? We've got the observatories, which keep it to where we can't have any street lights on. And so it's small things like that I appreciate and like about Tucson that I think are going to keep Tucson for a while. But the other side of the coin, and this has been a thought I've been battling with, is who am I, because of my preference, to restrict growth and evolution somewhere. Everyone's always going to, as human beings, we don't like change, right? We're comfortable in what we know, right? So anytime anything's thought about being changed, we're always going to have immediate pushback. But what we've seen throughout history is changes come, and it's just a matter of how hard you're going to fight against it, right? And you can fight until you're blue in the face. If something's going to change, it's going to change whether you want it to or not.
Hey, every one of us took someone else's view
Right.
when our homes were built. That's just the reality.
Sure.
So it stops with me. To me, that's very small-minded and selfish. And we talk about it a lot. In our neighborhood, because there's been a lot of change. Because at the end, when I first moved on where I live, I was the end of the road. That was it.
Right.
Well, now that's no longer the case. We've knocked a hole through there. We
Sure.
built some houses back there. It's a lot more difficult to come out of my side street. I got to come out doing about 45 now because I do have traffic that's got warmed up, and I'm kind of on one of those cosmetic curves. So I can't see very far in either direction. And when you see that go, you better go, And yet that's part of the charm and part of why I like living here, because the growth it sustains us. We can't just stop growing. That we don't have enough going for us outside of the growth. Right. I don't want to make this all dependent on the contractors being able to continue to build, but part of it is we have to keep building at this juncture. Now, my thing is, what do we do when we're done? Because at some point, Marana will be done. There will be no more space again unless we go in the air. Hey, you're going to have to figure that out, Daniel, because the younger people, what draws people here besides just the weather and the good stuff we talk about? There has to be something else, and your next gen is going to have to figure that out. We had some stuff going. What I think it is, I still think it's based on the weather and the climate and stuff. But you have to work around that. So I'm working on a project right now to bring amateur sports really big time to Southern Arizona, to Marana. That would be great because that brings families, that brings kids, it brings a lot of economic impact, and it's a clean thing because we're not just trampling in these families, because it's an existing business my buddy owns, and you can see that it would work here. They come, they go, they maybe hang out the pumpkin patch while they're here, and that's enough to start with. And it can't probably be a amusement park because amusement parks are summertime. Well,
No,
nobody's coming here in the
never
summertime.
work here in Tucson.
They're not coming here. It's 110 degrees.
We can't even keep a water park open in Tucson.
Yeah.
The amusement park.
So I don't know, but that's something. But the cool thing is there's a lot of a lot of resources and a lot of smart people that if you guys really sit down and go, we got to figure out another way to sustain what we're doing through being a destination more than just great Sonoran hot dogs.
Man,
you know
that's what I was gonna say.
Well, it could be. Hey, that's part of it, though.
Yeah.
And that's a big push we have now with local Marana through the Marana and all this growth is, but it's hard to do. Here's why. Restaurants don't make a lot of money. That's not a great place to invest your money. So to have that local flair and that local flavor isn't necessarily a good risk from the money side.
Right.
So I'd love to see that. There's a task force been put together by the town of Marana and the Chamber of Commerce, and they keep coming back. It's almost impossible to really do this on a local flavor because it's just too expensive for mom and pop to spend $2 million to open their hot dog stand or their taco stand, whereas the corporation can easily come in, and now we've got more Big Macs and Dairy Queen, and no offense to any of those, but. Well, now we're no different than Chattanooga, Tennessee, as far as just driving down the street.
Yeah, there's a lot of Sonoran dog stands around though, and we've got to keep adding those and keep growing those.
And please, when you're out, hey, go ahead and drive by the arches and hit one of these little shacks because there's one over there in Cotero that's awesome.
Yep, that's my spot. I go there three
Talking
times
about
a
right
week.
there by the.
Yeah, right. Cortero and Hartman, across from the IHOP, next to the QT.
Yeah. What's the name of that? Let's give them a shout out.
That's El Carte del Roro.
It's good stuff.
It is. It's in my opinion, and I consider myself to be a Sonoran dog connoisseur of sorts. They've got the best flavor so far. I went to El Sinaloense yesterday because I was just over there down Alvernon and like Grant, Pima area. And I want to say that cart probably should be recognized for the longevity that they've had their quality. They haven't changed. A lot of these carts open up and they do good when they first start because they're pushing a quality product, and then something happens with the ingredients where they start switching things up and the quality just kind of falls off. And El Sinaloense, they've been doing pretty good for I haven't noticed any changes within the last decade.
I've noticed that too, and this happens in restaurants as a whole. But the original operators there now they're growing a little bit, so now it's not the original guy in the cart or in the truck, and it's an employee, and they're just not as good as the person that was there originally. David took us down here to Lowell's last week. There's a little, it's not a Sonoran dog, but it was really good. They had little tacos and.
Yeah, I think they even have Sonoran dogs, but they got tacos and a bunch of other stuff too.
I wish I could think of the name of that little place down here at Lowell's parking lot, right across basically from Old Father Inn, and it was really good. It was. I had a couple of little tacos, and man, it was really tasty.
Yeah, the guy who's on Cortero used to have a second cart that was in the Lowe's parking lot, and they had two locations. But
was he over here? Was it? He was
the Sonoran hot dog stand was probably about a year and a half ago.
I remember. I went down there and got that a couple times.
Those were the same people.
So we're going to solve our problems with Sonoran hot dogs.
We are.
Is that what we're going to do?
I think so.
Okay.
That's what I try to do anytime I'm having a rough day is go get a Sonoran dog. It seems to fix everything.
Hey Scott, you've just sat back there all morning. We saw one little appearance, and jump in here real quick because we're getting ready to wrap up, and I know you've got a whole lot you can bring to this conversation. So kind of tie up this web that we've spun this morning.
Well, some fun facts that I think we've got some great takeaways today, and one is. Do the best you can not to die. And that's great advice coming from live local Marana and the evolution of the business owner. And just I appreciated listening to you guys on the Sonoran dogs because, it's all about supporting local business. And we want Marana and these surrounding areas to be unique and different for a reason. And the way they will do that is without all of the chain restaurants. They'll be done with local business owners, local service folks like Blueprint and Daniel, and that's who we're here to support.
Yeah.
Well, let's think about this to the restaurants, let's tie this together to the whole don't die, right? So if as a species, I'm trying to think of the two most important things to me, which are how do I live the longest that I possibly can and how can I be the happiest that I possibly can, right? The earlier I start getting into pain and discomfort, the quicker I'm going to be unhappy, right? Well, all we know is that all of the mass-produced food that we consume every day at incredible levels is, we don't know what they're putting in that crap, right? Like we have no idea what's going on. It's like, it's kind of, for me, right, I listen to the stories that, I remember my parents telling me about the stories of the 70s and the 80s, and it was everyone smoked.
Yeah.
And no one even knew that it was bad for them. And then all of a sudden we found that it started killing people, right? And so I'm always kind of walking around wondering, I wonder what our generation's little aha is going to be, where, we end up telling our grandkids that, like, yeah, this is what we did, and it was really bad. And I think the fast food is probably going to be one of the biggest ones, because, I mean, we just have no idea what we're putting in our bodies. And all we know is that it can't be good.
Subway a few years ago had ground up yoga mat material in their bun. Remember that?
I don't, but
yeah,
I
that was part of the thing. And what genius said, hey, I'm sure it was more than that, but it was the same component that was in yoga mats was in the bun to make them either prettier or hold their shape better. And like, what genius came up with that idea? I mean, really. And I think about the first McDonald's, because I remember the first McDonald's that came to my hometown. It wasn't this McDonald's. Trust me. Most people were still eating at home at that time frame. You couldn't have been that and compete with mom's cooking and survived in the 70s. This was a slow process to where I won't name names because I'd be bashing restaurants, but there are a lot of fast food restaurants I will not eat at. I'll just keep going till I can find a Sonoran dog versus go there.
Well, food is going to be one of the biggest things for the future coming up, because if we want to be healthy and we don't want to be in pain and we want to live for the longest period of time, I think it's going to be something that I really do think probably in the next 10 to 20 years, people are going to really start looking and cracking down on that, right? Because it's just it can't be good.
Well,
what we're putting into
obesity
us.
right now. Scott, maybe you can help me here with some serious backgrounds and stuff in the medical and as a first responder. But obesity right now, I think I read the other day, is like at its all-time high in the United States. Does that sound right, Scott?
I feel like it's been that way for 10, 15
20
years.
Yeah.
I think even to Daniel's point on what we're putting in our bodies, I have personally I have a gluten sensitivity that is confined to just here in the United States, because when we did 2.5 weeks in Italy and I ate bread every day in the form of pizza, pastries, all of that stuff, never had a problem. So it's the ingredients that we've decided along the way to cut a lot of corners to maximize profit and get all of the stuff out into the chains to feed the people that is having an effect on us. And I noticed it when we spent a couple weeks elsewhere. So that's facts.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've watched a little bit, some documentaries on all that. And it's even talking about like the, broccoli that grows from the ground, right? And is supposed to be high in iron, right? But they're comparing, the levels of iron that broccoli has today to the levels of iron that broccoli contained 30, 40, 50 years ago. And it's night and day different, just because we are just turning that dirt over so much and so fast that we're even the good foods that we eat at home still aren't as nutritional or nutritious as they were, 30, 40 years ago. So that's a problem.
Well, a kid growing up we weren't farmers, but a lot of people, everybody around us was, and they rotated crops because of that very thing. We're going to grow corn this year. We're going to grow beans next year, whatever. because of the nutrients that they needed the soil to replace itself with, and we can use this because that doesn't require as much. I don't know anything about that as far as the chemicals involved, but there was always a crop rotation. Yeah, I can hear them. I can hear these old guys talking. Well, I'm going to grow.
You don't need it now, though, Clint, because we'll just pump you full of vaccine and pharmaceuticals and whatever you need to counteract the problems that we've actually force-fed you.
Yeah,
See?
I really do think we're going to make some really interesting discoveries. And I keep getting away from Marana. I like to think so much further, but we're going to come to some realizations in the next 20 years about a lot of the stuff that we've been doing for the last 10 to 15 and that we're going to do for the next 10. And I think there's going to be some pretty big shifts.
You know who's going to do it? You guys. Your generation, Scott's generation, David's generation, because of what you just said a while ago. People smoked. I remember a time when people smoked in the grocery stores. There were ashtrays literally throughout grocery stores. There were cigarette butts on the grocery stores. I worked in grocery stores at high school. You'd sweep up every couple hours. You'd go empty the ashtrays in the grocery stores or near the meat department. It was just accepted. But the only place you didn't smoke was inside the theater, but you could sure smoke in the lobby of the theater. Now,
yeah, you're smoking on
nobody's
airplanes
smoking. And I was a smoker. I'll full confession. I smoked for a number of years. That's the dumbest thing I ever learned how to do.
Sure.
I'm smoke free now, thank God.
Good job.
But that was just commonplace. Everybody smoked. Well, not everybody. My parents didn't smoke, but a lot of people smoked. You look at old movies, old TV shows. Everybody's smoking.
You know what I think is something that's kind of going on right now. And last time we talked, we touched on depression and its increase and everything, right? Well, to the food standpoint, right? If we're not getting the nutrients that we need, that could definitely be a contributing factor. But another thing that I think we just need to adapt as a society or really as a species is change, right? Like we're so against change, but that's pretty much the only thing that's guaranteed is change, right? Like, think about this. Do you think football will still exist 50 years from now, or do you think they'll shut that down?
Hey, gents, I think we got a caller on here. You mind if I punch him through?
Sure.
Bring it.
David, you're on the line.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Yay!
Let's get another caller.
So you're off of your assignment, is that correct?
Yes, I am. I'm driving right now, but I just wanted to chime in here and just say, Daniel, you're awesome, man. We need to make you a regular. Like, I'm just sitting here driving, listening to what you guys are saying, and Daniel, you're on it, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me know when you need
Hey,
me.
he's off all week, David. You got time to work this out.
I actually got to get some stuff done this week. But yeah, no, thanks for having me. I'm glad I could fill in.
David who?
Yeah.
Just David. How about that?
Oh, you mean the guy who used to be on the show?
The guy that was the host there.
Oh, yeah.
The co-host that used
he
to
was
be
really
there.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was a good dude.
Job interviews.
Yeah, he passed,
Yeah,
didn't he?
Yeah, no. So I just want to jump in and say, hey, it's been great listening to you guys while I've been driving from the complete end of the other side of town. But I just wanted to compliment you guys. Especially you, Daniel. It was awesome, man.
buddy. Thank
Hey,
you.
David, what's the name of the cart we went to over there at Lowe's the other day?
Oh, Rolly's Tucson.
Yes, good stuff. Maybe we ought to have
Rolly's.
lunch there today, huh?
Yeah. Hey, Daniel, you been there yet? I know you're a Sonoran dog connoisseur, so
Yeah, I love
I think
it.
they have a. You been to Rolly's?
They do. Yeah, I had their tacos, which were phenomenal. Their Sonoran dog was definitely good, but I wouldn't pick it over my Carte de Roro off of Cortero. That one's my favorite for right now.
Yeah, same ditto. That's a good cart, man.
Yeah.
I love that place.
Beautiful. How long you gonna be, David? We'll just go get some lunch.
Yeah, I'll be there in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
I'm in I-10 right now, but
I don't think they open till 11, but we can hang on an hour, can't we?
Yeah.
oh, Yeah, let's get Daniel some lunch, man.
Okay.
We'll have to table the will football exist in 40 years question for the next one.
Yeah, we'll hold that one. We'll hold that.
That one could be
Baseball
a whole
will still
topic.
be here despite Manford's attempts to blow it up. It'll still be here.
They got cheerleaders now. Baseball.
Baseball does?
Yeah.
What,
I
the
went to a
Savannah
Diamondbacks
Bananas
game.
or what?
No, I went to a Diamondbacks game 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And they got.
Yeah, they do.
They have like cheerleaders.
Yeah, they jump around on the dugout and throw out shirts and stuff.
That was the first time I had seen that.
Yeah, they've been doing that a while.
Okay.
Yeah, they got cheerleaders.
They're making moves.
Yeah. Not all of them good. Hey, so what are we doing, Scott?
That's a sign that we're going to go ahead and call it a day.
Okay.
And thank you.
You wrap us up. Take us
so
out,
very
Scott.
much for everybody for listening with Clint and our new, just got hired here, Daniel, for doing some co-hosting. So great job, gentlemen. Thank you for supporting local
Thanks for
Marana,
having me.
Arizona. Thank you for supporting local business. And we will all be back soon.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I got to remember.